I was wondering if StreamYard was going to work. There had been an issue, and it seems like they have very wonderfully remedied. I appreciate you. I really do. I'm, us pro-black, I think we got a really bad reputation and just hate people for the sake of hating people. And that is true. Not at all cases. Someone's doing what they are promising they'll do. And then I'm very grateful. I want to first off just hope and pray that nobody has been harmed by this mega quake in Alaska. I can't present my screen share. Okay, I should do that so that okay, I stopped sharing, and that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to hide that little warning up there. I don't know if I can, but there we go. Let me go on over to the Quake map, the geological U.S. survey map right here, and just highlight there has been a 7.3. That's really dangerous. Quake in Alaska at Sand Point. There's a tsunami warning, which to me is hopeful, because it's only 20 kilometers in depth, but if it's 20 kilometers in depth underneath the waters, then that's deeper than if it were 20 kilometers in depth underneath the ground, the terra firma, and there was nothing maybe weighing on it. A tsunami can be just terrifyingly obliterating, because then after the quake, you've got a wall of water that wipes out people who might have survived quake on land. So I pray that everything is all right. I think, can I hide this by doing that? Yes, I can. That's really cool. Let me go on over. I found PBS that is showcasing what happened. Let me get rid of all. Nope, that's not going to work. Okay. 7.3 magnitude earthquake stirs tsunami warning along parts of Alaska's southern coast. Lightly populated stretch of Alaska's southern coast was under a tsunami warning Wednesday after a strong earthquake was felt throughout the region, and officials in the Pacific Northwest were evaluating whether there was any threat to coastlines there. The U.S. Geological Survey described it as a 7.3. The U.S. Tsunami Center said the warning was in effect from about 40 miles southwest of Homer to Unimak Pass, a distance of about 700 miles. Among the larger communities in the area is Kodiak, population 5,200. The first waves were projected to hit the village of Sandpoint, a community of about 580 people on Popoff Island in the Aleutian chain. Now, when they say it's not heavily populated, if you happen to be the one person who's living there, it's going to be wholly terrifying. Hopefully that's all it is. It's terrifying, and it's not actually obliterating, because if something happens to you, it's 100% awful. And so I wish everybody there, no matter their race, all the best, because stuff happens to black us too. And because of, and I'll get into it probably more during the share, because I'm going to put those connections together that nobody in the Black community is speaking about at all. Is highly disappointing to me, even though I'm real friendly. I'm nice to everybody. At the same time, I'm always going to look at you and say, really? You are not going to mention the CMOS? You're not going to say a damn thing as our people just gobble radioactive isotopes down? Even if you've Never done, there are people who they've listened to what I share and they've done individual research, but individual you and even your individual family are going to be nothing without all of Black us supporting one another. You mad at what white people do? You mad at white people? I'm not going to be mad at you because we are the victim in all of this. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here and we wouldn't be being used as the poster child for every single depravity that they want to just enjoy. You aren't going to be anything without us collectively. So if you're mad about something that they've done, trust and believe once it is revealed. Do you understand how much they are scrambling? They are scrambling for the continuance of their authority, the legend of whiteism. They want that to keep on going. And if Fukushima and the havoc it's caused on an unprecedented scale, because I know white people, their culture, their phenotype lends itself to madness. They don't want to die either. They want to actually believe they're capable of embracing the truth, even though some of them are waking up and realizing they want nothing to do with the truth. And they're hoping a whole bunch of distractions will protect them from having to face the truth. Right? So if you're that Black person and you're tired of these people, get the warning out. Please, if there's something about my style that is, contrary to respectability, because I'm a sister. I'm just, I don't like acting like I'm a white person. I don't like speaking proper English, even though I'm quite capable of it. Right? Divorce it from me. I haven't, not always, but lots of videos, I got the book list. Go get the books, read them. All right? And then you'll know, whoa, she ain't kidding. She ain't making this up. This isn't a social media gimmick for clicks. Because if it was, I would not be. Look, they got rid of most of my subscribers. They keep my view counts down to the bare minimum. What am I talking about even more than I did when I had a huge amount of followers? Man-made radiation and all the details and connections thereof. Because that is their destruction, revealing the truth about what this stuff does. Why am I talking about it? In case you've never been here, and it's related to this 7.3 magnitude, because I'm daggone cause. Matter of fact, let me just come back over. Let's see, to the StreamYard there. And let's see, I don't want to remove it. I just want to, I guess I do. Okay. I can add it back. That's good. Why? Because the cores from the destroyed nuclear power plant in Fukushima, Japan, those cores, which were the nuts and bolts, not the nuts and bolts, but the fissioning radioactive isotopes in the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, they melted through the bottom of the building. They were clocked by a Japanese professor at 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's an awful lot of heat. Concrete, when I looked it up, concrete cannot withstand temperatures of 5,000 degrees. It was just evaporated. And as a matter of fact, that is part of the construction, the engineering of a nuclear power plant in order to endure the possibility of that level of heat. Because if it's not, they make holes in the flooring of the concrete buildings, because otherwise it would just get too hot in there and the fissioning process would melt any structures they built to maintain it at an equilibrium. They have it in these things they call the fuel rods. And when they want it to go, the temperature to go up, they drop them into an aqueous solution, right? Water, not salt water. Can't have any salt water, too corrosive, right? They put it into that heavy water solution. It doesn't start out heavy. It starts out as just clean water. Ain't too much of that left on the planet with these dudes and their nuclear power plants, all right? But they drop it in there, and then in that aqueous solution, these fuel rods have a connection with each other. Just like if you're walking down the block and a power line falls and it happens to be raining, and for some reason you don't have your shoes on, you're dead, because water conducts electricity. Water is incredible. It also conducts waves, harmonious waves, or really bad ones. Dr. Emoto Masuda, who was Japanese, did studies on water, and there's a whole bunch of things. I got different theories on how we could repurify our water, but until we start testing all these different things, and we're listening to the white people who say, what nuclear power plant? Fukushima? What are you talking about? Oh, that radical sister, she crazy, okay? Then we'll never know. But in the meantime, in that aqueous solution, these fuel rods, they start to fissioning back and forth. And once they reach a certain level, they'll pull them back up again. Oh, no, that's too hot now. Because the whole point of it, as Einstein said, it's a hell of a way to boil water. Fusion, not fusion, but fissioning energy with radioactive isotopes. And Kevin Blanche upped it. I'm quoting him because I like what he said. He said he's adding to what Einstein said. It's a hell of a way to boil a planet, right? And so that water is what allows the fissioning process to be conducted, and they maintain it and regulate it by lowering and pulling up the fuel rods. But after a certain amount of fissioning, the nuclear fuel inside the fuel rods becomes too hot. They call it waste, fuel waste. But it's not waste. It's just too hot for them to deal with anymore. So they take it out, they put it in another pool of water, and they often will just store it right on the nuclear power plant site because they lie. They've lied to everybody. Oh my God. Wow, the lies that they tell, the subterfuge that they conduct in order to hide this stuff. So in Fukushima, it blew up. And the fuel rods, they just basically went everywhere. Reactor number 4, they thoroughly lied about that and said that, the fuel rods were still in there. No, it weren't. Okay. I got Freedom of Information Acts from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. It said 100% of the water in the spent fuel rod pool it evaporated out instantly because it was hot, and the fuel rods exploded. They went everywhere. There's nothing there, and that was plutonium. Okay, so with these the other 3, because it was 6 buildings that were destroyed, right? 6 nuclear reactors were destroyed. Fukushima was the biggest nuclear reactor on the planet. Out of 3 of those buildings, I do believe 1 through 3, the cores, that's what they call all that spent fuel, the rods that are still being used, the cores melted down through the destroyed concrete flooring at 5,000 degrees. All right? Those cores, there was nothing stopping them anymore. They barreled into the earth. Yes, there's a underground river underneath Fukushima, but the cores, I don't see it. If the concrete ain't stopping them, I really don't see H2O stopping them. And so that is the reason why. Let's go on back over to the USGS. Where you are, you baby? There you are, right there. Okay. And let's get all the quakes, because this has been crazy. This has been crazy. All magnitudes. There we go. And let's go back over here. I watch this constantly. I just don't come and talk about it. I made a promise to myself, unless a quake was 7.0 or bigger, I would not be bothered, because I'm not going to come up here, and I'm not here to panic anybody. because I know there's solutions. I mentioned one, Dr. Masato Emoto. But as long as we're quiet and we're like looking at me as if I'm some form of entertainment, that is some ghoulish damn entertainment. You should not be watching me if you just happen to like, I don't even remember all these zombie shows. If you just got a fixation with zombies, I am not the one for you. Okay? You need a psychiatrist, because these entities are destroying the only planet we have. That is literal. That is not figurative. That is not allegorical. That is a fact. That is a fact. Because all of this started with Fukushima. 3/11/11. Make sure. Is that right? Because it's been over 14 years. Next year it'll be 15 years. Right? So this stuff, I mean, the volcanoes, everybody is like talking about, I don't know how many, but there's like tons of volcanoes on the West Coast. And then in Iceland, there was a brand new eruption. There's all of these different fissures in our planet that are happening, exploding, fracturing in levels that have never happened before. Right? And everywhere. And it's because the radiation has inundated every single level of our planet's strata, from atmosphere down into the core of the earth. Even the weather systems have been affected. That's why I bother coming here, because, trust me, it's been wonderful writing my book. I get so much enjoyment out of doing that I'm like, if it weren't for Fukushima, some other black person, not white person. Ain't no white person going to save us. Ain't no white person going to talk against that sea moss, right? If it weren't for Fukushima, yeah, maybe I would come up here every now and then, but I'd be really I'd be good. Okay, am I sharing my screen? I don't know. I might not be. Let's make sure I am. Over here. Yeah, I am. Okay, that's good. And as I say, I welcome the 7 people watching. That's a wonderful thing. I appreciate you. And some of you might not be a good friend of mine. You might be like my enemies, because I know with YouTube, I mean, the censorship is otherworldly with these guys. Oh my goodness. Let me there we go. That's what I do right there. It's off the scale. And I remember when I first started doing videos on YouTube, it was more organic, and it made sense in the way that, because of the seriousness of my warning, and I bring the facts. I do my research deeply, even while I'm writing my own novel. Does this thing come around, flip the other way? I don't know. Anyway, but this is No Immediate Danger, written by Rosalie Bertell. Even though I'm still actually doing active writing, it was wonderful to do that today. Because it's summertime, I'm gonna go out and get my sunlight, okay? But I will sit down and just read while I'm sunbathing, because I'm like, some black person's got to be reading this stuff. Some black person who loves us, despite all the propaganda, the lies told against us. We're not the worst people on the planet. Someone who feels that way has got to be studying this stuff and analyzing it, because I just read this and I'm just like, how the hell did we miss this? How the hell did we? But I know it's all on purpose, right? They just make us bored to tears in school with science, and so that we just, go, oh, that's too much for my little head. No, it's not. It's basic plumbing. When I started studying nuclear physics, I was like, wait a minute, why do I understand this? And trying to figure out my computer is the mystery, right? Because real science is created by the one and only. It's basic plumbing. Just like they have all these confusing words for the systems in our body, so it makes a lot of people go, oh, whatever. That's all that physics is. Nuclear physics is plumbing. It's not that difficult, right? And when people's lives are involved, suddenly it's like when I was pregnant with our son. I suddenly became an avid just researcher of pregnancy and all the things involved. I was almost as well instructed as the doctors that I went to. When it came to all the little details and variables, I was there, all right? Same thing with this, where I'm like, you're involved. I'm not dumb that way. I know without you, there'll be no me. Okay? This earth is screaming, screaming. And I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to present not just fears, but solutions. Because real people, I don't care if there's not another person, 20 square miles, 50, 100 square miles away from you. Your life is precious. Each and every single one of us. Right? So get the warning out. This is not about just being salacious. It's about the only planet we have. And watching that map, I really could come here every day and say, yo, have you seen the instability going on out here? Something's going to happen. So when I saw about the 7.3, I was like, I figured. And you know what? It's going to get worse, because as I watch the pattern, it never gets better. It only incrementally gets more intense, where there's always, like Japan, there's people leaving Japan just based off all the quakes happening there that are unprecedented. We're talking Japan, which is historically known as the most earthquake prone place on the planet. And there's people there saying, yo, I'm out. Right? So it's not going to get better unless we make it better by stopping the reason why we're not studying collectively as a race of people how to defeat this radioactive scourge that's in our planet. If there's anybody on this earth who own this earth and thereby have the ability to do it, have the melanated resonance to connect in frequencies we cannot see, taste, or feel, but we are the people of soul. It's us. Okay? All right. Wow. Again, I don't know. Let me look for the latest and add that back to the stage so that I can see any updates as far as, here we go. Let's see. 7.3 Quake, Alaska updates. Let's see what's going on. Okay, still in a tsunami warning. Briefs, triggered brief tsunami warning for Southwest Alaska. Okay, so maybe it's calmed down. As I said, it's a beautiful thing that it's not on land. And being 20 kilometers deep does make a difference. Let's see, they say about a depth of 12 miles, 20 kilometers, yeah. It struck 54 miles south of the community of Sandpoint shortly after 12:30 p.m. at a depth of about 12 miles. All right, so, woo, that's a good thing. No, nobody's harmed. I'm happy to hear that. When I'm like, yo, we need to separate. Allah made the universe and made people so that we're not all just one glut of human race. And then it's so much more easy to control everybody. We need different tribes of people asking questions, demanding answers, sharing the warning. Okay? All right. I'm done. I love you, family. Straight Black pride is our first step to forever. And getting the warning that about Fukushima, that's everything right there. All right. I love you. Peace, beloved Sister Jasmine Virgo. Thank you for leaving a word. I love your comments. You have no idea. And they shadow ban your comments. It's just so like heartless. That's they feel like they have control over us. Well, social media is a public utility. That's exactly what it is. Because without us being able to communicate one to the other, we are so much easier to destroy, right? That's why they gain control over the media so that they can put their pablum crap out there. And as far as the whole, like I just was thinking about Jeffrey Epstein fiasco, the files don't exist with Trump. They're doing what they need to do. They needed to have more fights to drag because nobody's paying attention to Ukraine anymore. Folks are tired of the small hat folks just bombing everything and they don't want to get involved, right? So they needed something that would involve people, and Trump being a possible pedo, in my conclusion, firmly, that's the new thing to get everybody battling back and forth. That's what it's for. When I was looking at all these MAGAs losing their minds over it, I said that's what that's for, because this way they're going to pay more attention to nothing. To nothing. They're easy to fool, right? They love to be fooled. So that's all I'm saying is that we got to put the real warning out there, because this is affecting our ability to stand on our planet firmly and with surety. That's not tolerable. Okay? All right. I love you. I already said that, and so I'm getting out of here before it hits 30 minutes. Peace and blessings, family.